I did not think about this as a job in college.
Yeah.
But it's something that could change your life.
Hey there, and welcome to Sassy Tech, where I try to provide valuable information and resources. So today we're going to do things a little different because since I started this channel, I've gotten so many questions. And to be honest, I'm a beginner myself, so I don't have all the answers. Lucky for us, I have friends in high places. Darryl White is literally a walking symbol of hard work and perseverance. He's literally been with his company for 8 years and has held 8 titles. Exactly. So I thought he would be the perfect person to talk to get a little insight on how to be successful in tech sales. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So once again, just thank you for hopping on the call with me. And today we're just going to talk about like career paths in tech sales and basically starting off as a SDR. So first, I'm just going to ask you, what is your current role and what did it take for you to get there?
Yeah, so Darryl White, I am the North American commercial training lead for SiteImprove now. And this has been a role that is kind of got created, I would say, last fall as we started to think about the enablement part of our teams. And so for me, I started in sales. I started as a BDR. And then when I was a BDR, I wanted to be an account executive. That was like my goal. I was like focused on being an account executive. So I worked really hard to do that, learned from so many different people. Then I became account executive. Did that for a couple of years, selling the product. But I went to school for mass communication and marketing. So with that, I was presented an opportunity within the business to transition to the marketing side, but in a sort of hybrid sales role, which was pretty cool to be able to use my sales experience as well as some of my marketing knowledge and, from some of the jobs I did when I was in college. And we created this new role. I was going to different events, generating leads and things like that. Also working in other marketing campaigns. And from that, I went to be a true marketer, just focused on marketing. And that was awesome. That was fun. A lot of learning, never doing it on a scale like this, for B2B company, right?
Yeah.
So that was really cool. But then within that, talking with my leadership, we started to uncover gaps that we're having in our processes. And with that, we realized that our leads weren't being followed up with by sales in an appropriate way, right? Some maybe took forever to follow up on them, or some just didn't reach out to them at all. So what I decided and what we decided was to kind of bring back this hybrid role that I had within marketing, but have it where they are further qualifying our leads. They're following up on the leads that are coming from our drip campaigns, coming through our website, leads that came from events and so on, right? And so the idea of that was you get a group of people and you train them on how to speak to these folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So since they were involved with the campaign from the beginning, they get the idea of it. They got what we were trying to get out of these leads. So they were able to speak to it, right? And so that's what we did. And we created kind of our inbound, we called it market development reps at the time, right? So now they're just our inbound BDRs. So our BDR team is now a mix of inbound and outbound. And so after a while, I did transition back into sales, getting to a point where I'm at now today. But, I transitioned back on the sales side to help with our business development department. And that was really fun. Did that for the last 2 years. But within that role, that's what we've identified this is like, hey, within that role, I'm doing the coaching, I'm doing the enablement, I'm doing all the onboarding, I'm doing a lot of different things, right? That could be a full-time role. Right. And so that's kind of how we developed it was, that's always been my biggest feedback to my employees as well. Right. So once you've identified a problem, don't just like talk to the problem, also come up with a solution to the problem. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the solution is you. Right. So that's how I am today. That's how I got here.
Oh, I mean, that is like a crazy ride, right? Like, I think a lot of people when they're entering the SDR field, they kind of look at it as just that, like, I'm just getting a job, but they don't really see the possibilities that can come from it. So That's amazing. And once again, congratulations. I know you've been, what is this? I know you've been with your current, what was it? For over 7 years with SiteImprove?
Yeah, it'll be 8 years in March. So
Wow.
time is going fast. I think someone told me they're like 8 years, 8 roles. What?
And that's like impressive, but that's kind of the growth that especially if you put in the work in, obviously.
Exactly.
The growth is tremendous because it's such an expanding space. So once again, congratulations. Okay, so my second question would be, are there any expectations you had about this career path that were different from reality, like good or bad?
Expectations. I think my expectations were set in stone from the beginning, and understanding how it works. Right. That's what's nice about having transparency with your managers. They kind of lay that groundwork for you. And so I kind of understood what I was getting into, and I knew that I was taking a BDR role to eventually become an account executive. I knew that's where I needed to start. I knew where I wanted to be, and I knew I had to start here. Really understand the process, understand the lingo, understand the personas that we were speaking to, and how we were able to help them, right? And then from there it just grew. So I think the transition went. I think it probably took a little longer than I expected. That's probably a difference, right? I think I was coming in thinking, oh, I can crush this in 6 months, be an AE, and it just wasn't like that, right? And I think why it was because I think from our leadership that was here, they wanted to make sure that we were all ready, right? And so I'll tell you a quick little story about that. And so I was actually one of the first BDRs, we called them account specialists back then, to apply for an account executive role within the business, right? So internally, right? So our company was really kind of small at the time. And so that actually created some internal processes on those promotion paths, right? And so we ended up creating a sales development program at the time to help BDRs that wanted to transition to become account executives. So that way we knew when they finished that program, they were ready.
Oh, that's actually kind of cool. So you kind of paved the way for the people behind you.
Right. It got put on pause for a little bit during COVID, but that's something that we're going to bring back, right? And we want to make sure that we're developing our BDRs so that way they can hit the ground running when they become an account executive, right? Because that's quite a bit of a jump, especially when you're selling products that are over 6 figures.
Yeah. It's a big responsibility, being the one that have to close those deals versus just booking the meetings.
Right. It's a lot that goes into it, right?
Different skill set, which kind of segues me into the next question, which would be, what are the crucial skills that you need to succeed in this career?
Oh, man. The one is just being naturally curious, right? Being naturally curious and really understanding who you're talking to, the personas you're talking to, how your organization helps you or helps them, I should say. That's the key, right? And then when you do that, the natural curiosity questions come because you know their world so well, right? Because at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is have conversations, right? So curiosity, being adaptable is one of them as well, right? I think that goes to internal and external things, right? Because in software in this world, things change a lot, right? Your territory can change tomorrow, right? But within conversations, you have to adapt, right? Because you can't, you go off of script sort of, right? But then they could say something that, that's completely different. So you have to be able to adapt to the conversation and be able to have that conversation. So I would say curiosity, adaptability, and then time management. Like if your time management skills are not there or poor, you're going to fail, right? You're going to fail because you spend too much time prospecting, or you spend too much time doing this. You have to have better time management skills. And that alone, those 3 skills right there are going to take you very far in all the rest of the roles that you do moving forward.
No, I could second that for sure. Because me being brand new to the space, I kind of knew this, but when you get in it, you have to know it. And you have to live by it. So
and you have to do it, and you have to be consistent with doing it. Right?
So definitely, for me being somebody who's, just new into everything, that expectation of, like you said, like, oh yeah, in 6 months I got this. I'm like, well, granted, I haven't even been in it for, a month yet. However, I'm like, okay, let me focus on learning instead of just jumping to the next, level. I really want to take all the time to absorb all the information. So that's a big one. That time blocking.
I had that conversation with the BDR the other day. I said, hey, I get that, but let's focus here. Let's make you the best BDR possible, so that way you do have that opportunity for that next role, right?
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Okay, so what career path does an SDR role open you up to? So we kind of touched on that a little bit, but somebody who, say, wants to stay in sales specifically, what trajectory do you see them going on?
I mean, I think from a BDR, our CEO kind of looks at it as like, that's the area where we kind of can breed the rest of the team, right? That's where things start. I call it a minor league system. And it's like that because we're trying to get them and develop them so they can be the next best thing wherever they decide to go, right? So typically, in our world, we see people go to customer success. We have very good success with people going into customer success roles, right? From a BDR standpoint, I think because they're able to ask really good questions, especially if you understand how we're helping. They're going to be able to ask those good questions with our clients and make sure they're using the platform properly, but also uncover areas where they're not using it, and we can upsell them, right?
Right.
And so customer success, I've seen people go into marketing. Obviously I did it too, but we've had other reps, BDRs go into marketing. I had our BDR go into events. I have BDRs that went into operational roles, enablement roles. We've had people go into tech, IT support, actually, from our company. And then, I see some people have partner organizations, partner alliances, so that's another avenue for BDRs as well. I can just see so many different paths, right? HR, we've had a lot of BDRs that transition into HR specialists.
That's interesting.
You're selling the company.
That's true. And qualifying too.
Right, and you have to qualify them, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of those skill sets do translate into these other roles within the business.
That I would definitely say that's so true because since I've started my YouTube channel, I've had a lot of questions. That's why I'm like, I got to get an expert on the line because I'm like, I don't know everything. But that is one thing that people ask me, like, well, where do I go from here? And I'm like, it's so many different avenues. Like soon it's the step into the whole world of tech, really.
Right. Even if you look at just within the BDR org, and every organization is a little different, but we have senior BDRs, right? So that way, if you're hitting your goals, you become a senior, right? You still get more pay, right? We'll ask for a little extra more responsibilities with that. That means like leadership roles leadership things that we're trying to grow within you. And then we've started a team lead role with BDRs, right? And so with this team lead role, they're still doing the job, but they're getting that management experience as well. So we're growing the future leaders, right? So literally the two guys I just had as my team leads have both just now been promoted to managers. Now they're running the team.
So that's extra, a little sprinkle on your resume. Right. So that's nice.
So that's a lot of things that you can do. And then obviously you can go on to be an account executive and things like that, management, all those things are in the cards for you. But you got to put the work into it. That's the key.
Yeah, the major key for real. And basically last question would be, what is the best advice you have for someone looking to break into tech sales? So somebody who is just from the outside looking in, not quite sure if they want to do it or not. Like what would you suggest them do? Or is there any kind of material they should absorb? Or like what advice do you have?
I'm sure you did this, and I know you did this. You went and did some research and watched YouTube videos. You did all of that stuff, right? You started having conversations with folks, right? I think all the things that we actually did together, even before you started interviewing, we met, right? We met before that. And I started giving you advice. I started telling you all the things about the tech world, right? I think that's the thing. You have to do your research, right? And you have to understand if this is the right fit for you. right? I have a nonprofit outside of this. It's called It's About Time that will focus on people of color getting into tech. And that's what we do. We go around, we introduce tech to people, understand the kind of the benefits of it, things that they can get from it. We go around to different colleges. Hey, because I didn't think about tech sales. I did not think about this as a job in college.
Yeah.
But it's something that could change your life. It can change yours and your family's life. And you can create generational wealth. I'll tell you now, I'm so happy I did it because my life has changed, especially coming from the inner city of Chicago. My family life had changed. And so it's a lot that goes with it, with the benefits of it. And I say to anybody, obviously do your research first, right? Have conversations with people who are in the industry, learn the ins and outs and see if this is going to be a good fit for you, right? Do the research, watch the YouTube channels. People talk about, hey, what is an SDR? What do they do, right? Do the proper homework before you're making that decision that's the route you're going to go into. And then when you do, go all in.
Yeah.
Go all in. Don't half step it. Go all in because it will be noticed.
No, you definitely hit the nail on the head. I couldn't have said it better. I tell people all the time, do your research. That was definitely a tip you gave me. I had an idea, but once we talked, I understood that that's like the core of all of this is knowing how to research, find information, and really just utilize whatever you have to, absorb everything you can. So,
yeah. And guess what? Follow those things, you build those skill sets, and now you're doing it for work.
Exactly. So I'm like, when I do have people ask me like, oh, this and that, and I'm like, not trying to be rude at all. But I'm like, if you can't find that answer on your own, this might not be for you. You have to be very savvy. Like, I'm going to help you, but I'm also let you know, you've got to be able to find information and you have to be able to, really discover things on your own and use every bit of resource you have, whether it's people or, websites, videos, whatever. You're going to have to dig deep. So no, that is wonderful advice. You gave me advice, so, and I'm doing pretty well, I may say. So,
started a YouTube channel. I'm super proud of you. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep elevating. I think a big piece of what you said earlier when we talked about time management, you talked about learning, right? Mm-hmm. Always keep self-development in your schedule, right? You're always learning. I had a CMO come and talk to our team. And he talked about how he puts time aside still. He's a CMO for self-development on a weekly basis. So, and I said this too, and I'll give this to another tip, right? That we can close with that. But, if you look at professional athletes or people who play a music instrument, right? Mm-hmm. They're practicing and training more than they're playing, right?
Yes.
That's how they got to be where they're at. So as a SDR or someone you have to practice, you have to train on a weekly basis as well to be as good as you want to be, right? You can't practice with money and people that practice with prospects, that's practicing with money. Yeah. You have to practice, right? And you have to train outside of those calls, and that's what's going to make you better and better and better.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And, well, that concludes my questions. Once again, I thank you for your time. I think this is really good information for the people who are going to be watching. Obviously, I will leave a link below for your organization if you would like that, so people know how to get in touch with you. And so once again, just thank you for everything. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Anytime you want me to jump back in, let me know. I'm happy to cover other topics for you.
Well, thank you so much.